They set up the janitor as a joke on a blind date, until the CEO spoke and silence filled the room. The clinking of silverware against fine china echoed across the exclusive downtown restaurant. Soft jazz filled the air, bouncing off crystal chandeliers that hung like dripping stars. It was the kind of place only people with six-figure salaries felt comfortable walking into without checking the prices on the menu. At a corner booth, 3 young executives huddled together, snickering like mischievous schoolchildren who'd just pulled off a prank. "Wait until she sees him," whispered Darren, adjusting his designer tie. "This is going to be legendary." "Legendary," echoed Tiffany, barely containing her laughter. She leaned in closer. "Olivia's been bragging about her perfect dates for weeks. Let's see how perfect she feels when she realizes she's been paired with the janitor." Ethan, the third in their clique, smirked. "Poor guy won't even know what hit him. He's probably never stepped foot in a place like this. Imagine his face." They all chuckled, their expensive watches glinting under the warm lights. The guy they were talking about was Samuel. Samuel wore a faded uniform with his name stitched in cursive thread and shoes that had seen far better days. Every morning, he pushed a squeaky cart through the glass doors of Hamilton Enterprises, sweeping floors, emptying trash bins, and fixing leaky pipes. Most employees didn't even bother to greet him. To them, he was invisible. But today, Samuel had been given an unusual invitation. Tiffany had approached him earlier in the week, smiling in a way that didn't reach her eyes. "Sam," she'd said sweetly, "there's this woman who's perfect for you. She's beautiful, successful, and wants a good man. We've arranged a blind date for you at Le Jardin Rouge. Just be there at 7. Samuel had hesitated. "Me? A blind date? At that place?" "Yes, you," Tiffany insisted, her tone playful. "Trust me, it'll be fun." Samuel had smiled politely and nodded. He didn't date much. Truthfully, he hadn't been out for dinner in months. Maybe this was a chance, however unlikely, to meet someone genuine. The arrival. Olivia walked into the restaurant with effortless elegance. She was stunning, long auburn hair, a fitted emerald dress, and an air of confidence that turned heads. She had no idea her colleagues were watching her from the corner booth. She approached the hostess stand. "Reservation for Olivia Hayes." "Of course," the hostess said, guiding her to a table by the window. Olivia's eyes sparkled with anticipation. She had agreed to the blind date reluctantly, teased by Tiffany's insistence that this man was different. When Samuel walked in, a hush seemed to fall over their little corner of the restaurant. He wore a neatly pressed shirt and borrowed blazer, clearly secondhand but cared for. His shoes were polished, though scuffed. His posture was straight, but his hands fidgeted nervously. The trio in the booth nearly burst into laughter. "Oh my God," Darren whispered, clutching his stomach. "He actually showed up." "Olivia is going to kill him when she finds out," Tiffany giggled. But as Samuel walked toward Olivia's table, something unexpected happened. Olivia's eyes softened. She stood, smiling politely. "Hi," she said, extending her hand. "You must be Samuel." He blinked, surprised she wasn't recoiling. "Yes, ma'am. Samuel. It's nice to meet you." They shook hands and Olivia gestured for him to sit. The conversation. At first, their conversation was tentative. Samuel was nervous, his voice low. Olivia asked simple questions about his day, his work, his interests. He answered honestly, though never boasting. He talked about fixing things, about growing up with little, but learning to make the most of what he had. Olivia found herself intrigued. He wasn't polished like the men she usually dated. He didn't pepper his sentences with business jargon or brag about. Part 2. They set up the janitor as a joke on a blind date, until the CEO spoke and silence filled the room. The gossip spread through Hamilton Enterprises like wildfire. By Monday morning, every department, from accounting to marketing, was buzzing about the blind date that had turned into something no one expected. "Did you hear? The CEO himself praised Samuel at Le Jardin Rouge. I heard Olivia Hayes, the Olivia Hayes, is actually seeing him now." "Impossible. A janitor and a top consultant? That's not real." But it was real. Olivia, who had once been admired for her polished perfection, now seemed more approachable. She walked into the office smiling, greeting Samuel if she saw him in the hallway. For many, it was disorienting. The hierarchy they thought unshakable, the executives at the top, the janitors at the bottom, suddenly seemed blurred. The pranksters' fallout. Darren, Tiffany, and Ethan weren't laughing anymore. At first, they tried to spin the story. "Oh, it was just a light-hearted joke," Tiffany told her colleagues with a dismissive wave. "Yeah," Darren added, "we were trying to help him, get him out there." But no one bought it. Word had reached Richard Hamilton himself. At the weekly leadership meeting, he'd addressed it without naming names. "There is no place for cruelty in this company," Richard said, his voice even but sharp. "If anyone thinks it's amusing to humiliate another person, they are in the wrong place. We build people up here. We don't tear them down." Darren shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Tiffany's face burned red. Ethan avoided eye contact. Everyone knew exactly who Richard was talking about. Samuel's rising respect. Meanwhile, Samuel went about his work as usual. He still polished the floors, emptied trash bins, and fixed leaky faucets. But now people noticed. "Morning, Samuel," an HR associate greeted cheerfully. "Hey, Sam, thanks for helping with the copier yesterday." He wasn't invisible anymore, and it wasn't just because of Richard's words. It was because Samuel carried himself with the same humility and steadiness as before. He hadn't changed for attention. He had simply been seen for the first time. One afternoon, Olivia stopped by the maintenance room where Samuel was fixing a broken chair. She leaned against the doorway, watching him work. "You know," she teased, "you're more famous around here than half the executives." Samuel laughed softly. "Fame doesn't fix a broken chair." She smiled, crossing the room to help steady the frame as he tightened the bolts. "No," she said, "but character does." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the room was filled with unspoken understanding. A growing bond. Their relationship blossomed quietly. They shared late-night coffees at a 24-hour diner, strolled through the park on Sundays, and sometimes sat together in the break room when Olivia's meetings ran long. Olivia admired Samuel's grounded nature. He didn't try to impress her with expensive gifts or grand gestures. Instead, he listened, really listened, to her stories, her worries, her dreams. And Samuel found himself opening up in ways he never had before. He told her about growing up in a small town, about losing his parents young, about how he'd taken the janitor job simply because it was steady work. "I always figured people like me don't climb ladders," he said one night. "We just hold them steady for everyone else." Olivia shook her head gently. "Maybe it's time someone held the ladder for you." The turning point. A few weeks later, Hamilton Enterprises hosted its annual charity gala. It was the event of the year. Glittering gowns, champagne flutes, and business deals whispered over hors d'oeuvres. Olivia was, of course, invited. Samuel never expected to be. But on the night of the gala, when Olivia arrived, she found Samuel standing near the entrance, in a tailored suit that fit him perfectly, his shoes polished to a shine. Her